Hi, Patience. We are waiting for the other participants. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How are you today?
Hi. We're waiting for the participants starting at 10:20.
Okay. I sent you an email yesterday.
Yeah, I received it.
I
Yeah.
sent you an email. Okay.
Yeah. I received it correctly. So I saw your presentation. Have you? I think it's already in the resources of. I'm not sure.
I have uploaded it today there.
It's uploaded. Okay. Great.
So in case I fail to share, you will help me share my presentation today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you remember the evaluations association in Uganda?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Uganda
great.
Evaluation Association.
How many members do you have?
The member capacity is around like 100.
Okay,
Over 100.
great. That's interesting. Okay.
So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be part of this conference.
Yeah. Yeah, we're happy to have you on board now.
So I managed to attend the workshop on Tuesday about
Yeah.
climate change,
Yes,
and
okay.
then the last 2 days. I've been I participated in a number of sessions.
Excellent. And so, okay, Lauren is on. Okay, thank you, Lauren.
So I'm inquiring, the other presenter, did she confirm her availability?
I don't know exactly. Lauren, maybe you know. What about Daphne Scalidou? Will she be present or not? Because I have no news from her. Didn't answer to my messages. So I don't know if she will show up. You know that? Lauren, do you hear me?
Maybe she's still muted.
She's muted, but she's deaf. Can hear me. We'll wait. Anyway, you know, everything is recorded, so the recording of the session will be available to all participants. So if people don't participate today, you will have we will have the availability of your presentation and your presentation as well. So don't worry if we don't have the whole session as planned. Lauren, do you hear me? Doesn't. Well, anyway, it's time to open the session, so I will do, and waiting for the participants to come and to the other speaker. Well, this session is classified in our theme 4, greasing the wheels of evaluation and exploring ways to develop how knowledge can change practice. So welcome to new participants. So we will have, well, in fact, 2 presentations. The first one is by Patience Nuwainem Babazi from Uganda. She is monitoring and evaluation officer at the Uganda Wildlife Authority, a public organization, and interested, of course, in natural resources management and climate change adaptation projects. And she will expose the evaluation of the strategic plan of the UWA, and showing how evaluation contributes to change the approaches of government. So, Patience, the floor is yours. You can start your presentation, and thank you for coming and presenting this very interesting example. Patience. Patience, I don't know the pronunciation.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. So, thank you, Dan. Patience, my name, as you have said, and I'm from Uganda. I work with Uganda Wildlife Authority. And today I am going to share with you on how evaluation for encompassing fairness and utility with a case study of evaluation of Uganda Wildlife Authority strategic plan. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yes, it's okay. No problem.
Okay, and I have shared. Can anyone see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Presentation?
Yes,
okay.
It looks good.
Okay, thank you. So the presentation is basically going to talk about 3 things. Is the case study of Uganda Wildlife Authority. So I'm going to talk about how the Uganda Wildlife Authority, who we are, then how we have used evaluation knowledge to ensure there is improvement in practices and approaches at Uganda Wildlife Authority. So Uganda Wildlife Authority, it is a government parastatal, and it was established in 1996 by the Uganda Wildlife Act, and it was through merging of Uganda national parks with the government, the game department. So these 2 were merged, and then we formed the Uganda Wildlife Authority. So its mandate is to ensure there is a conservation of wildlife in Uganda. So it manages both wildlife in protected areas and outside protected areas. When you talk about the protected areas, here we mean the national parks and the wildlife reserves. So we have a total of 10 national parks, and we have 12 wildlife reserves. Then we have 4 sanctuaries, and we have 14 community wildlife areas where animals move and interact with the community. So the strategic plan that was evaluated, it was developed in 2013, and it ran up to 2018, and its goal was to ensure there is sustainable management of wildlife for providing enjoyment and supporting the community livelihood, and also contributing to national development. And so the strategic plan had 6 programs. One was resource conservation and management, and this one was basically for ensuring there is conservation of wildlife for health ecosystems, and also ensuring there is protection of the integrity of the protected areas. Those are the national park and the wildlife reserve I've seen above. So another program was community conservation. This one aims at ensuring there is enhanced benefit for communities as well as living in harmony with the wildlife. Then another program is research and ecological monitoring. This one aims at generating scientific and management information to facilitate decision making and effective conservation of wildlife in Uganda. And we cannot do that without governance and corporate affairs. This one ensures there is effective decision making on a national level, as well as ensuring that we have securing the public image of Uganda Wildlife Authority. Another program was capacity development, which ensures there is vibrant human and infrastructure system that works together to ensure that wildlife is well protected. And at Uganda Wildlife Authority, we have we generate our money through tourism. So tourism development and financial sustainability was another program under on the strategic plan, the key results area also. And this one aims at improving tourism, ensure that tourism services are okay, as well as we have the funds that can facilitate wildlife conservation. Am I everyone online? Is it okay?
Yes.
Can I continue, please? Okay.
Looks good.
So for this discussion, I'm going to focus on community conservation program, and we have seen above that it aims at achieving sustainable wildlife conservation for improved community livelihood and harmony between people and the wildlife. So when we talk of improved community livelihood, we cannot conserve minus having these people on board, the communities who are living next to our parks. So for them to feel and be part of conservation, we have to make sure that their needs are met. So we do this in terms of ensuring that we enhance the benefits that they can access or they can enjoy as a result of living near the national parks and the wildlife reserves. We do this in the form of revenue sharing. So at Uganda Wildlife Authority, we have an obligation of sharing 20% of the collection that we get from tourism to the communities. So we give them a revenue sharing, that is 20% of the collections. And then they access sport hunting funds revenue, the money that come out as a result of sport hunting. And then they get the meat, we share with them with the meat. And also we have they access resources themselves in terms of the herbs, in terms of the firewood. So this one makes them feel that they are part of this, and they value their values and perceptions towards conservation is improved. So as we do the conservation with the communities, we have a big challenge of human wildlife conflict. So the community wildlife conservation program aims at ensuring that there is minimal human wildlife conflict between the communities and wildlife. So the evaluation, the strategic plan, it was evaluated to find out or to establish and ascertain whether the strategies that were set, that were put in place and were implemented for the period of 5 years, that is from 2013 to 2018, whether they were effective in controlling, in managing the issues that we have on the ground. As I had said about so the whole structure and the whole design of the evaluation was done in a way that it is a utilization-focused evaluation. The results from the evaluation, they were to lead in developing the strategies and coming up with a new strategic plan that would guide another 5 years of implementation of Uganda Wildlife Authority. So the whole process Through the whole process, the purpose of evaluation was laid out to ensure that at the end of it all, the results and the findings from the evaluation have to be utilized. So the purpose of evaluation was established, and this was communicated to all the intended users. When you talk about the intended users, we meant the staff ourselves, the staff of Uganda Wildlife Authority, the management. We fall under the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife and Antiquities. Also, all of them, they are brought on board and communicated why an evaluation is going to take place and why we need to do the evaluation. So through the process of designing the evaluation, the purpose had to be integrated in the whole process. So we made sure that the utility-based or utility-focused evaluation was really laid well. So through the process of executing the evaluation, it was supported. The youth was supported to ensure that at the end of it all, we don't just get the results and the document is just filed, an evaluation report is just filed there under the slave, but it was the results, the recommendations are used. So on executing the evaluation and the results were out, we went ahead to ensure that we stimulate the use of these findings. We came out with an implementation strategy on how these findings are going to be used. So one way was to ensure that the recommendation were part of they informed the new strategic plan, that is the next strategic plan that we're implementing at the moment. And then follow-up was done to ensure that what was put in the new strategic plan, it was being implemented, to ensure that at the end of it all, our results from the evaluation don't just sit there, but they inform our policies, and as we're going to see the presentation. So the whole process was to ensure that we have it's better to have an appropriate answer to the right question than an exact answer to the wrong question. So as we're designing all this, we made sure that the data that was collected was informing utility. So our process, this is what was done, the utilization-based evaluation, this is what we did. So right away from designing the evaluation, the tools, coming up with the terms of reference, communicating the terms of reference, and designing the evaluation, it was put in it was, utility of the evaluation was part. Then the data collection, and then analyzing and doing the reporting was also, we had to make sure that it is really part. And the way we disseminated the results, we came up with a dissemination strategy on which report goes to who are we sharing with. So top management had received the kind of a report. We integrated and removed the basics that were to be shared with top management, as well as the ministry, because these are the policy makers, and then also the public, the communities where we collected the data, or the communities who are neighboring our community or our national parks. Then we went ahead and ensured the implementation of the results that I had discussed above. So basically, this whole process is like a cycle from designing up to the implementation, and then again it will inform another type of evaluation that is going to be evaluated to be done. So we ensure that the whole process is well planned, because if you fail to plan, you have planned to fail. So the whole process was planned to ensure that at the end of it, all the results are used. So this was the evaluation process. We had planning meetings at the organization level with different staff. Then from there, we went and had meetings. We identify our stakeholders who were to be involved in the whole of this. Then some of the stakeholders are our mother ministry, that is Ministry of Tourism. Then the communities that are living near the parks, because they are affected by our activities of conservation of wildlife. Then we have the donors, we have the partners who help, whom we implement with to ensure that the wildlife is protected. So we also went ahead and did an evaluation design. The evaluation was designed very well. We primarily it was qualitative method to ensure that we get the in-depth, but this was translated with the quantitative the methods. The data tools were designed and tested, and then data collection took place using different methods. We did a focus group discussion. We had key informant interviews. We had interviews with the communities. We met the groups who are benefiting, like those ones who have projects as a result of coming from the evaluation from wildlife. Then the data was analyzed. The report was done. Then we had validation meetings. The validation meetings, we had them with communities, then with the local government, and then also staff with Uganda Wildlife Authority. And then from there, the results were disseminated, and we ensured that we came up with the monitoring of utilization that, like I had shared a bit above. We ensured that we came up with an implementation strategy to ensure that the results were utilized, and monitoring was done to enforce this. So these are some of the stakeholders that were identified. We had the community members, the Uganda Wildlife staff, the partners, UWA management, top management, the ministry, and some other government officials who play a key in the implementation of activities at Uganda Wildlife Authority. So this is the process that we went through to establish our stakeholders and how to involve them. So we identified who are our stakeholders, what are the interests, then the power and influence they have on us and the activity and the evaluation, then the roles that they play, and then the involvement. So each one of them were identified and we established on how we can involve them. So basically, we can see during we have the picture below. We have a focus group discussion with some of the communities. Then another picture is about validation of findings with the local government. So when I talk of human-wildlife conflict, this is what we are facing at Uganda Wildlife Authority. It is a very big challenge. We have community, much as we are conserving, we are ensuring communities are brought on board, we are doing our work, still these communities are being affected. The animals, they move away from the parks and they go to their gardens. These people have planted their gardens and they are waiting to harvest and earn a living from it. But because of the wildlife being near, they move around, they move out of the park and they destroy their crops. So as Uganda Wildlife Authority, we have put interventions in place to ensure that we manage this. So one of the interventions in place is the use of trenches. Trenches are dug. So these trenches, they are called elephant trenches. They are dug with participation from the communities, so that it can deter animals from moving from the park. And during evaluation, you can observe with the presence of trenches, the animals cannot move from the park, so people are able to grow their crops and enjoy their livelihood. However, during evaluation, it was established that some of these interventions, they cannot stand the test of time. So for example, with time, the trenches, they get desilted, and when they get desilted, the animals are easily to move, to cross and go to the communities and destroy the gardens, as we have seen up. And So the recommendations were done. Recommendations were made on how to effectively manage the wildlife. And then another finding was the lack of legislation. We did not have like a compensation guidelines on how these people have been affected, on how they can be compensated. Then it was established that there's poor response of the cases that are reported in case there's an attack or an attack of a human being, in case the animals have moved and they have destroyed the people's crops. It would take long because the staff the staff are like not there in play. There's low capacity of staff. Others are doing other activities, so it becomes so hard to ensure that this one is managed. So we can see the type of the conflict. People get injured by buffaloes. We see a chimpanzee moving to people's homes. Then we can also see an assessment being done on the crop destruction by elephants in Chidepo Valley National Park. So from the evaluation, it was established that there's a need to develop clear legislations, like I talked of compensation guidelines, also moving and establishing new methods that are effective. We saw how one of the methods that are implementation of the trenches was not doing its role. It needs to be enforced with other methods, and also provide provision of more resources to ensure that the resources are available. And then development of community-based programs to ensure that the communities are brought on board to help and assist staff in managing the human-wildlife conflict. So, and also increasing awareness. This is telling people about how the animals, the behavior of the animals, what they need to do, what they need to plant. For example, instead of planting palatable crops, they can plant non-palatable crops to control this. And then from evaluation, and it was I'm going to share about how these the results were utilized. So from our evaluation, we established that new methods were supposed to be needed to be brought on board, and the new method of constructing electric fence stop animals from moving from the national park to community land. It was established, and this one was brought on board. As I talk now, we already have electric fence in Queen Elizabeth National Park, as well as in Murchison Falls National Park, and feasibility studies to establish in other places are ongoing. So, using the implementation strategy of ensuring that there's utilization of findings, we ensured that this was part of the new strategic plan to ensure that the funds are allocated, and we went ahead and got assistance from the donors to work on this project. Then with compensation guidelines, from evaluation, it was established that we needed compensation guidelines to guide on how to compensate people who have been affected, and this was done, and currently it is part of the revision of the wildlife policy was done, and the compensation guideline was incorporated. So basically, other interventions are being implemented with like the use of beehives to control animals from moving from national parks. Then we have brought on board community-based interventions by recruiting the scouts. This is being done in association with USAID. We are partnering with USAID, and they are giving us funds, and also capacity in training the community. The scouts help in controlling human-wildlife conflict in their areas. So from all this, it was I've got a number of lessons that I've learned, and one is to ensure the validation of findings. So for effective use of finding or utilization of findings, you have to make sure that validation meetings are done and the findings are validated, so that the users to acquire the users buy-in. Then presentation of the findings and recommendation to management. So we presented our results management to ensure that they appreciate the need of ensuring that these findings, they don't just remain on paper, but they can lead to policy change and improvement in in implementation. So program and post engagements after the results, we shared also with the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife and Antiquities, and from there, that's where we see the policy change, like the wildlife policy was revised, and the Act was also revised, and these other areas that we established, like the compensation, were incorporated there. Then implementation of the design, that is, we have seen that we ensured that the recommendation were part of the new strategic plan. So that was one way of ensuring that our results and findings are to be used. And in all this, we had to make sure that stakeholders are involved. So the involvement of stakeholders was very key in ensuring that our results are to be used at the end of it all. So from this, these are my take home: taking care of the interest of the stakeholders' interests. We have the communities who are being affected right from the ground. We had to make sure that we listen to them. Then we have the politicians who are also in the neighborhood who come from the neighboring communities still, and also at the higher level. And then having a buy-in from the mother institution, we explained to them they understood the purpose of the evaluation and the use of the findings, which was one way of our evaluation contributed to the change in the policy. Then our donors, they come bringing them on board and ensuring that the results, our findings are utilized where we failed, like for example in enforcing community interventions. Then also the electricity fence, we could not manage implementing that on our own, but with donor fundings we are able to. Then the political situation, the parliament, these people are very keen in ensuring that at the end of it all the results are used or not used. So voices of the beneficiaries are very key, and the way you design an evaluation also matters. It can either lead to failure or the use of the results. So the evaluation of the past it's a step to determining the vision of the future. So thank you so much, Conserving for Generation. Over to you in case of any questions.
Danielle, you're on mute.
I can't.
Thank you, Lauren. Sorry. Well, thank you very much, Patience, for this presentation. Very lively, interesting. I don't know where there are a few participants, only one, in fact. I don't know if Nina wants to ask a question, or I would another one or two. I would have one. What kind of difficulties did you meet in raising awareness about wildlife protection and more generally climate change? How would you characterize the difficulties that you meet in your organization or in evaluation?
Okay, thank you so much. Evaluation, most people feel that when you're coming to do an evaluation, you're interacting with their work. They feel they do not. It's about saying you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Yet it's about learning and where to see where improvement is supposed to come from. So As an evaluation team, we had to talk to bring people on board. We sat with them and showed them that this one is not about saying you didn't do this, you have not done that, but it is to lead to improvement in how we do this, how do things in this organization. And we managed to talk to them, and they bought the idea, and they came on board. And when it comes to the communities, for them, they believe they believe the national parks are supposed to just for them to just have any access and doing their things. So raising the awareness in terms of ensuring that we buy their we bring them on board to conserve with us is not easy. But as a team at UWA, that we are doing our best to ensure that we bring them on board. So in terms of ensuring that we provide them with the benefits, like I shared earlier, that we share with them, like for example, the revenue sharing, the money that comes from sport hunting. So currently, that is what is happening at UW.
Thank you.
I hope I understood your question.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question too. You told us that in your presentation and to me that you're a member of the Uganda Evaluations Association. Would you maybe tell us a bit more about this association and what are the issues you are working on, for instance, your projects? Can you say some words about your evaluation association in Uganda?
So the Uganda Evaluation Association, I'm part of it, and its use is to ensure that they build the capacity of Uganda evaluators so that they can do evaluations in the different organizations they are working in, as well as also empowering the young evaluators, those ones who have just finished like school, those ones in school, those ones who have just entered the workplaces to do the work. So they come up with like sessions. We have yearly meetings where we discuss different methods that are being on board, and then they have sessions for empowering people, like in terms of the method, like the type of like quantitative methods, what the people can use in their evaluations. So it is done in such a way that the capacity of people, since evaluation and monitoring and evaluation in Africa is not yet like on its peak. So it is trying to make sure that people are brought on board and they appreciate the use of evaluation in Uganda. So they organize sessions for people to learn. They present evaluation that have been done, as well as the methods that people can use.
Okay. And in what areas or institutions would you say that evaluation is most developed in Uganda? Agencies like yours, Parliament, universities? What are the drivers and the places where who help stimulating evaluation in Uganda?
So as Uganda, we have the ministry. We have the ministry that was put in place to oversee the monitoring and evaluation in the country. So this one, the office is found under the Prime Minister's office. They're in charge of ensuring that all government agencies, the local government, and other departments, they are enforcing monitoring and evaluation in their organization. So even a national monitoring and evaluation policy was brought on, was developed, and its framework on how it's supposed to be implemented. So this one shows on each who's supposed to do what and which type of evaluation is supposed to be conducted in different organizations, when it's supposed to be what. And through that, we have sector working groups. These ones, they meet, they have biannual reviews, then also they have annual review meetings where they sit and discuss the types of projects that have been implemented, that have been evaluated, and what are some of the recommendations and areas of improvement.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, are there any questions from the participants who are six around the table who would like to ask a question to Patience on her presentation or other topics? I don't see any raised hands. So, well, thank you very much, Patience. The other speaker is not present. She didn't register, so we had only your presentation. So we had the opportunity to have a full presentation with all details. That was really interesting. And as I mentioned I recall that everything is recorded, so we can come back afterwards to your presentation. Well, I will close the session. I have no question about that. In some words, how would you tell us what is your views, opinions on how to help evaluation to grease the wheels and to make knowledge be used for action in governments? What are the main issues that you would mention after your experience and presentation in some words?
Okay, the areas that I see that needs to be brought on board is empowering everyone, like ensuring that right from the top, that is the politicians, then the heads of the ministries and parastatals have to be brought on board, and they are raised on why evaluation is very key in every aspect. So basically it was to raise their awareness in terms of ensuring we bring them on board, we involve them in right from the beginning. If the project is going to be designed, they need to know that this project aims at achieving this, and for it to be done, monitoring has to be done. At the end of it all, we have to make sure that an evaluation is done, and the results will have to lead into the development of a new project or something of the sort. So involvement of and raising awareness of the top management and then the people in the ministries is very key.
Thank you. Wow, top management, taking on board top management.
Can I ask a question,
yes,
Danielle?
Yes, please.
I only came into your presentation halfway through, so I may have missed something, but I understand that you are working with the wildlife people in Uganda, which maybe puts you in a rather positive position because there is perhaps more consensus in many countries around wildlife than there are about other things. And the reason I say this is that I ran training courses in Uganda some years ago for evaluators. And one of the experiences I had was real problems that people reported in how government is able to deal with critical findings. So this is not unusual. There are many countries in Europe where governments are very nervous about critical findings. The country where there is not such yet a well-developed evaluation culture, I would expect this journey to be a long one and a difficult one. So because you are active in the networks of evaluators in Uganda, I assume you have experience of people who have worked both inside government and as well as in parastatals and in NGOs. What would be your view about how well people in positions of power and government, how they respond to evaluations which do not always go in the direction that they would like?
Thank you so much. So managing politics in evaluation here is very, very key, because the top management, like I would have talked earlier, like I'm going to talk in terms of Uganda Wildlife Authority, they play a very big role in ensuring that the work of monitoring and evaluation is can move on very well. So getting their buy-in is very key. Sitting down and having a dialogue on how this evaluation has to be conducted and how they lead to improvement in the work that we are doing is what currently we are doing, trying to raise the awareness. Much as it is very hard, because you can tell them this evaluation needs to be done, this project has ended, they will tell the finances are not available. Why would we need to do evaluation? We have done our work. It is done. So they say that in terms of like maybe the time and also the funds, and especially with COVID-19 coming in and affecting our economy and hitting us hard who are in the tourism sector, because as I talked earlier, most of the money that we get to facilitate our work is through tourism and the tourists that come into our country. So you find that bringing these people on board is not easy, and ensuring that they support the M&E work in Uganda. So it's a big challenge, and we are trying our best as a monitoring and evaluation team to ensure that they understand and they can support us.
I think you are being as diplomatic as I was trying to be diplomatic in my question. So I will try to take a slightly different, but also not a difficult position. But you are working in for example, you were working in conservation.
Yes, please.
I have also been involved in conservation projects in the Cameroon. And one of the big problems of conservation projects is the potential conflict between the interests of the animal species and the livelihoods of people. Because certainly where I was working in the Cameroon, the reason people were killing wildlife was also because of poverty and a lack of agriculture and a lack of alternative forms of income. So forget the question of the government, but talk about the stakeholders. Have you had any experience trying to resolve conflicts between, for example, gamekeepers and local hunters and conservation people and other people in the community? Have those kinds of conflicts come up in your work? And if they have, how have you found evaluation contributes to that resolution?
Okay, thank you so much. So basically, even my presentation was about the human-wildlife conflict in our country. So of course, as communities, for them, they believe the national parks and wildlife reserve, they are for them. They need to go in and they do their work. They do agriculture. We have a number of encroachments in different areas like Mount Elgon National Park, where almost part of the land is being encroached by the communities. And also in other areas, they see, why should we keep the animals? We need to eat them. We are hungry. So basically, a lot of conflicts are taking place, and being in conservation, we want to make sure that this wildlife, they are well protected and conserved. So through my work of evaluation, we have come up, we establish whether the interventions that have been put in place, whether they are effective in managing the conflict. We have the Community Conservation Department at UWA that does the work of raising awareness for communities. They go down on the ground, they talk to them on the reason why we need to have to conserve wildlife, and as well as how to manage living with the communities, because the animals, for them, they will not know that we need to stop here. This is where the park ends. They end up moving out of the park and moving on the community land. So basically, what we do as evaluation, we establish what is being done in our national parks and the wild reserves, and then we establish whether it is being effective or not effective and what we need to be done.
Okay, let me. I'm having a conversation. Danielle is the chair, so she must tell me when I must stop. But at the moment,
No, you know, surely not, Elliot. So,
at the
what's your
moment I'm having a
question?
conversation with you. So I
Yeah.
hear what
Yes,
you're
yes.
saying. The image I have is that the model of evaluation that you are working with is looking at the effectiveness of what has been done. So it's close to
Right.
monitoring, but it's also trying to establish whether something has worked or not. Now, in this area, there are different targets for evaluation. You
Yes,
could be
please.
having a target which is what you're saying, which is this is what we did it work? Another target could be here is an innovation that is being tested. Can we see whether this innovation is better than the traditional way of doing it? So that would be a different kind of evaluation. Another way of evaluating in this area where there are natural conflicts of interest is to try to develop solutions collaboratively with the stakeholders using evaluation to give information. So you're not just disseminating the findings of your evaluation. What you are also doing is saying, okay, we have tried this different form of community participation in animal welfare or working with the gamekeepers. It's a new thing. We don't know whether it's going well or not, or how it could be improved in the second phase. Have you done those kinds of evaluations where the evaluation is being used proactively as a tool to try to improve things, as well as retrospectively to look backwards to see whether something has worked?
Okay, thank you. So it is like the whole package. It's not about what has been done, whether it is effective or not. So it's the whole package. So through our evaluation, we ensure that we also bring stakeholders on board. I'm going to give an example of the Scouts, the program of the Scouts. So, for example, in Chidepo National Park, we had a challenge of animals moving from Chidepo, and then they moved to the community land and affecting their gardens and all that. So, as UWA, they were implementing on their own. They put the rangers on board. In case of any reported case, they would go and handle, and then they talk to communities. They raise that this is the behaviors of the animal. This is what to be done, but it was not effective. So we sat with the stakeholders, and they're like, "What do we need to do?" They're like, "Do you know what? We have our young and energetic boys in our community. They can work with you." So that's where the Scouts program, where it commenced from. So we did not have the capacity of us implementing it. So we also contacted our partners, and they allowed on partnering with us and implementing this intervention. So through the support of WCS, that is Wildlife Conservation Society, and the others, we came up with the community scouts. These were trained, they were equipped, and they are now working, and we see some change in terms of management of conflicts in Chidepo National Park.
Is there a gender dimension in what you are doing? Because in many societies, the men relate to the wildlife perhaps more as a nuisance or a source of food, whereas the women are more involved perhaps in agriculture. Is there any kind of gender dimension to some of the evaluations that you have undertaken?
So this has not been like very active, but in some way it has been brought on board. Because, for example, when we are doing evaluation, as we do like and have focus group discussion, we also involve women, because women are also women and men. We see like women are the one that provide food in their homes. in the society setting in Uganda. So it is their work to ensure that the home has gotten what to eat, and also so they are engaged. We have a number of community groups. They are the ones that do the crafts that they sell to the tourists. For example, we have those ones who are also collecting the firewood to ensure that they provide food, the meals for their communities. And then we also see men. Also, on another hand, they are also trying to ensure that their families they are well taken care of. And if these ones are not also brought on board, they want to go ahead and do the poaching. We have an issue of poaching. Animals are being poached in our country. So as we do this, we incorporate both women and men in our work.
This is exactly. So, I am drawing a lot on the experience I had in the Cameroon. So it was an extreme case in traditional forests that were conserved, but the conflict was the men went and did the hunting, and the women did the agriculture. The women were not supported to do agriculture because there was no need to do agriculture because we will get the food by hunting and poaching. So there was a conflict. The only way to resolve the problem with poaching was to increase the possibility of women and men doing more agriculture. So I don't know, I don't believe that every situation is the same, and Cameroon is a very different country from Uganda, but I was wondering whether any of that tension between as you say, the role of women providing food for the family on the one hand, and the men perhaps being sometimes involved in poaching, and whether the evaluation is able, A, to identify that problem, and B, to provide some framework which people can improve things.
Yes, please. So as I told you earlier that this has not been very active, but we learn. This is the area of learning, and we see how to improve on that. But it's not only, we provide these people with a number of alternatives, not apart from only agriculture, but they are given other livelihood projects. For example, beekeeping, for producing honey, and then planting of the trees. For example, those people have been entering the park and cutting out our trees. So basically, there are such programs on board that are being provided to communities to ensure that they are managed and controlled from entering and illegally executing our wildlife.
Okay, I feel that I've had more than my fair share of time, so I thank the chair for that. But I wondered whether you wanted to ask us any questions, because you have in the small but excellent group of people who are with you, people like Katri Vataja from Citra and May Pettigrew and myself and Danielle Lamarck. Maybe there are questions you would like to ask us before the chair ends the session.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm requesting from the presentation I had with you today, maybe any areas of improvement in terms of how we can improve our evaluation in our organization.
Okay, so maybe
for example, you talked about the gender part of it, how it needs to be incorporated, then maybe other areas that need to be brought on board.
I will certainly think about it and hopefully get back to you. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you. I hope you will find at the conference some contacts or ideas for that. You know that we have a network of evaluators, of course, and we have bursaries as well. There are different associations, and anything that we can do to enhance evaluation and networking and participation, of course, don't hesitate to liaise with the EES if we can't help and share contacts with you. We'll be very happy. Well, thank you very much to participants. Thanks to Elliot, and thank you, Patience, for your presentation and all the good questions and developments that you triggered. I will close the session And thank again all those who participate in it, and Patients First, and hope you will get more with the conference and good contacts with our colleagues. Thank you very much. I close the session now, and we can find all this exchange on the recordings when necessary. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To all of you. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.